recorded interview with Allan Haffa, who's a candidate for supervisor in District 5. I'm Josie Wilson, and my sister DWMC board member is Lisa Berkeley. She'll be responsible for timekeeping and recording. We're going to begin with Allan introducing himself for 1 minute, and then I'll follow with 5 questions, and the candidate will have 4 minutes to answer each. Allan, please make your introductory remarks.
Hi, I really appreciate the chance to introduce myself to the DWMC. My name's Dr. Allan Haffa. I'm a first-generation college student who went on to earn a PhD, and I've dedicated my career to helping my students at MPC, where I'm a professor of English, achieve their dreams. I've been married to Dr. Arlene Haffa for 37 years, and we supported each other as we earned our PhDs, raised our children, Ben and Elizabeth, together, and both are graduates of Monterey High School. I served on the MPUSD board when my kids were at Monterey High. The school district was experiencing difficulty. I was appointed, later elected, and later chosen to be board president. I've served on the Monterey City Council for the last 12 years, elected 3 times. I also serve on regional and county boards and commissions, including AMBAG, the Central Coast Community Energy, which I was on when we established it, the former Fort Ord Reuse Authority, Monterey One, Community Human Services, and more. I would be proud to be supervisor for District 5. I will be an advocate for women and women's issues. And as the former chair of Monterey County Democratic Party, I worked closely with Democratic women on issues of concern to your members.
Thank you. In your own words, please define the role of a county supervisor. Why do you want to be District 5 supervisor?
So in my view, leadership, elected leadership is first and foremost about community engagement. So the first role of a supervisor is to be engaged with and to work with stakeholders in the district and around the county. The second role of the supervisor is to provide leadership, direction, strategic planning, and vision. You do that by first establishing a budget. That's extremely important because we can't accomplish things in the county without funding those important things. That involves priority setting. And as a supervisor, I will bring together those 2 important roles of the supervisor by ensuring that our strategic planning is a planning process that fully engages all stakeholders in the community. That's something that, in my view, has been lacking in the past. Secondly, once we've established what our priorities are as a county, as a community, as a district, I will advocate for those priorities during the budget setting process. There's never enough money to do all of the good things that people want. You have to set priorities. And if you elect me, you'll be electing me to work with all of you, with all of the stakeholders, to identify those priorities. Another important role of the supervisor is oversight and accountability. Ultimately, the elected Board of Supervisors is responsible for everything that our county government does. As your supervisor, again, I will be active in providing that oversight. There's an issue right now involving our jail, very serious issues in our jail, and a need for oversight of our sheriff's department. I have been outspoken and public in my request for the county board to establish a community citizen oversight committee. That's the kind of, again, that's the kind of leadership I will provide. And that's an important role of the supervisors, to provide accountability. Another aspect of accountability and an important role of an elected official is the evaluation of government leadership and management. Again, I will ensure that we work with stakeholders to have citizen and employee feedback considered as part of the evaluation process. Obviously, as an elected official, you work closely with government unelected leadership, but you are responsible for evaluating them. That's the most important thing we do, because ultimately supervisors don't do anything themselves. We take action collectively. We approve plans, we approve budgets, we approve contracts, but it's the staff that ultimately are responsible for implementing those plans. And that's where a good evaluation process and proper oversight comes in. So community engagement, accountability, and then also planning. It's an essential part of what we do is planning. In my view, we approved a update to our general plan in 2010. I think it's time to take a look at certain things, especially as it relates to zoning and affordable housing. Our general plan has enabled too many sort of large developments that are targeting those who have the most money and those who don't necessarily need housing. We need to be targeting in our plans and planning for housing for our workforce. So planning is another essential important role of the supervisor. And then the last thing I would say is what I call boardmanship or boardwomanship, if you will, which is, how do you conduct yourself in a public forum? How do you engage with both the public, the staff, and your fellow electeds? I have a long record of good boardmanship. I went onto a board at the school district, MPUSD, which was not experiencing very good relations among board members, was not behaving at that time in a way that represented the district well.
Allan,
And
we're gonna have to, we've gone over the 4 minute. I'm sorry
oh,
if we
I'm
turned off
very
the,
sorry. I
no
didn't
worries.
see your finger, so
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's my fault
Okay,
though. Thanks.
you're good. Do you want to finish your sentence though? We'll give you the time.
Yeah, I'll just conclude. So supervisors must provide accountability, engagement, boardsmanship, planning, and oversight.
Thank you. Thinking just about District 5, what do you consider the top 3 most pressing issues specific to this district? And why should these issues be prioritized over others?
So from where I sit, workforce housing and affordable housing is the most pressing issue for District 5 and for the whole county. There are related issues like water and transportation. They're kind of all connected. But unless we can house our workforce, I don't think that we are going to be able to solve most of our other important issues. So that's the number one issue. It's something that I have provided leadership on at the city of Monterey. And we have, at Monterey, we have rezoned, upzoned our downtown Garden Road to try to make it easier to build affordable and workforce housing. We have identified city property that was underutilized to develop 100% affordable housing projects, and we're working on another one at this time. So that's the kind of vision and leadership on the issue of housing that I will bring to the Board of Supervisors. I think another very important issue I mentioned earlier for District 5 is the vacation rental issue. So we have, and I've heard from a lot of constituents in District 5 who feel like they're living next to a Motel 6. and that's not acceptable. When people, buy a home, they have a right, and that home is zoned residential. They have a right to expect to live in a residential community, not in a commercial district. And in the city of Monterey, we've addressed that issue. We've banned vacation rentals, and we have hired a consultant who monitors vacation rental websites, and it's been fairly effective. So we need to find a policy that works, not necessarily banning vacation rentals, but making sure that we don't have densification, that we don't have the kinds of problems with noise and with loud parties and that kind of thing. And so that would be a second issue I would identify. The third issue specific to District 5 that I would identify is our roads and transportation infrastructure. There are a number of problem points along Carmel Valley Road, for example, that need to be addressed for safety reasons. We also just have really poor road quality in the unincorporated county. In the city of Monterey, I supported 2 ballot measures, and we got over 70% of the public to support those ballot measures to improve our roads. So I will again bring the same attention to our poor road quality. I will be committed to improving our road quality and our infrastructure generally. The last issue I would say is emergency preparedness and fires, and we must address that as well.
Thank you. Okay, the third question, Allan. Thinking about the county as a whole, the role of supervisor requires you to represent and advocate for both District 5 and the needs of all residents and businesses throughout the county. What do you think are the larger issues the districts have in common? Which one is the most important and why?
That's a great question. Again, I'm proud to have a record of experience working with our county and our region on issues, whether that be at the Fort Ord Reuse Authority or Central Coast Community Energy, Community Human Services, AMBAG, and Monterey One. I think that first of all, the roads, as I mentioned, and our infrastructure are of a concern across the whole county. So that's something that we have to address. I would say that housing affordability and workforce housing is an issue across the county. Right now, we have a lot of folks who live in Salinas, North County, and South County who work on the peninsula. And that's bad for them. It's bad for their families. It's bad for the environment, and it's bad for traffic. So for all of those reasons, we need to work as a county to build housing that people who work can afford near where they work. And I see that as both a District 5 issue, but also as a county-wide issue. The traffic situation on Highway 68, Highway 1, Carmel Valley Road, again, these are issues that affect the whole county, and they're interrelated. Part of that traffic, and you can just look at the traffic patterns. Where does the traffic begin in the morning? Where does it end in the afternoon? It's driven by our housing workforce imbalance. So, traffic and housing, and then of course, water. We can't accomplish any of this without a reliable and affordable and environmentally sustainable water supply. We all know that water is an issue in District 5, in particular on the peninsula, but it's an issue countywide. In Castroville, they're having issues with seawater intrusion that ultimately will affect Salinas as well. It affects not only the hospitality industry, but also the ag industry. And it affects all of us in terms of our ability to build the kinds of homes and businesses that we want to build and live in. So Those would be issues that I see as county-wide. But there's really a last issue, and I think I have a minute left or so, and that has to do with the culture of the county. And in my view, I believe that the county board and the county culture needs to change, that we need to have a county that is more responsive to our residents, that is more inclusive in terms of inviting and involving people who aren't just the usual loud voices, but everyone. And we need to find a way to do that. And in terms of transparency. So, you know, we shouldn't need to find out a year after the fact that our county jail, for example, failed its accreditation report. That's something that is a basic human rights, and you know, there are human rights and civil rights issues at stake here. And we need a policy on transparency. We need a policy on public information sharing. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Which Board of Supervisor committees would you like to serve on and why?
I would like to serve first and foremost on the housing. I believe that housing is something as I've said, I want to be a champion for the county, and I have been a champion for in the city of Monterey. Another committee that would be very important to me is the committee that is addressing homelessness and social services. I've served on community human services for the last 10 years, and we've made a lot of progress as an agency, and we've made a lot of progress, I think, as a county and a region at addressing homelessness. But that's the reason that I ran for city council to begin with, you know, almost 12 years ago. The county basically controls a lot of the resources that allow the nonprofits that address that issue. So that would be another committee that I would very much like to be a part of. And the Veterans Affairs is another committee that is, I think, very important. We live in a community that supports a lot of veterans and that supports a lot of active military as well, who are a very important part of our community and our county. I think we have important work to do there in terms of improving services for veterans. So just off the top of my head, those would be some of the committees that I would be most interested in.
Great, thank you. Our last question. Please talk about a significant women's issue that you've already addressed in Monterey County. What did you do specifically that made it a sustainable difference, and what remains to be done?
So I think, first of all, I would say that I don't really differentiate between women's issues and issues in general. One of the things that I've learned is that women's issues or women's concerns tend to be concerns that matter to all of us. And where women's rights are concerned, all rights are concerned. But that being said, I think that the issue of bodily autonomy has kind of been forced upon us by the Supreme Court with the Dobbs decision. It's an extremely troubling decision. I am proud that as chair of the Democratic Party, when the Democratic women came to me, already wisely foreseeing that this could become a problem, and asked our committee to include a statement by all candidates who want our endorsement must commit to unambiguously supporting a woman's right to choose. And we did that. And as a county supervisor, I will do whatever I can to ensure women's access to reproductive rights in terms of making sure that those services are funded. But also the rights of all people in terms of their bodily autonomy. So we're seeing transgender folks and you know, gay folks and their marriages. All of those civil rights issues are at risk, and I will be a supervisor who is very outspoken in support of bodily autonomy. Childcare is really so important, you know, as a working parent going to college with a wife who was working and going to college, trying to raise our two young kids. We know how important childcare is. It limits women's choices in terms of the kind of work they would want to do or where and when they would want to work. So I was disappointed that Proposition 1 failed at the ballot box a few years ago, but I will do what I can to support child care and helping people to be able to have good, affordable choices. If that means supporting another ballot measure, just as I supported Prop 1, I will support that as well. I think housing is a human rights issue. It's an economic issue. It's an environmental issue, but it is also, because so many women bear so much responsibility for their families, it is a women's issue. So, you know, housing and housing affordability, those are issues I've done a lot of work on and will continue to do a lot of work on. Homeless women is an absolute tragedy. Again, I told you I ran for council in 2012 because of the homeless issue becoming, you know, me becoming really aware of it. That happened when a female student showed up to my class wet with wet paper. And I've committed then, I'm still committed now, and I've done a lot to try to improve services for homeless people in general, but homeless women in particular. As a council member and as a CHS board member, Casa de Noche Buena and Schumann Hart House were part of our vision to address that. So those are just a few issues, and I would look to work with the Democratic Women's Club on whatever other issues are important to you.
Thank you so much, Allan. I really appreciate the thoughtfulness of your responses.
Thank you, Josie.
Okay, so we are going to end with your closing statement. You'll have 1 minute.
Thank you very much. So first of all, again, I just want to thank the Democratic women for giving me this opportunity, and Josie and Lisa for organizing such a, you know, well-designed interview process. I would be honored to have your endorsement. I've been involved in the Democratic Party, actively involved for over a decade as party chair, as a delegate to the Democratic National Convention, not once, but twice, as the executive board member to our state party, and as a delegate to our state party. In all of those roles, I have done my best to represent the people of Monterey County and the women of Monterey County, and to work with you. I was proud to be a local organizer and whip for Kimberly Ellis, who ran sadly unsuccessfully for state party chair. I've worked to help elect many, many women, Yuri Anderson and Natalia Molina at MPC, Mary Adams, Jane Parker, Wendy Root Askew at the county board. I've also supported your member, Regina Gage, in both of her runs for county board. I supported Libby Downey, Nancy Selfridge, Kim Barber, other women for Monterey City Council. And I've shared with all of them my guide for how to get elected locally. I've endorsed them. I've given them money. I've gone canvassing for them. So anyway, thank you very much. I really appreciate the work that your committee does to help Democrats throughout our county.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Recorded interview with Kate Daniels, who's a candidate for supervisor in District 5. I'm Josie Wilson, and my sister DWMC board member is Lisa Berkeley. She'll be responsible for timekeeping and recording. We're going to begin with Kate introducing herself for 1 minute. Then I'll follow with 5 questions, and the candidate will have 4 minutes to answer each. Kate, please make your introductory remarks.
Thank you, Josie, and thank you to all of the DWMC for providing this opportunity for me to come and introduce myself to all of you and to, excuse me, make this pitch for your endorsement. I was born and raised in Monterey County. I am a lifelong Democrat. I have been voting in every election since I turned 18, which was a very exciting election for me because it was the first time I could remember that a Democrat was elected president in the United States of America. I have been a member of the Democratic Women of Monterey County for many years now, and I am fully committed to the vision of this organization, which is to elect and empower women and their allies into office. We have a real opportunity here in Monterey County to elect another woman to the Board of Supervisors, and I hope that you all will support me in that effort to ensure that when Mary Adams retires, we replace Mary Adams with another woman on the Monterey County Board of Supervisors. So thank you all.
In your own words, please define the role of a county supervisor. Why do you want to be the District 5 supervisor?
Well, thank you so much, Josie, for that question. The Monterey County Board of Supervisors is really the key legislative body for all of Monterey County. Monterey County is made up of incorporated and unincorporated jurisdictions. If you live in one of the unincorporated jurisdictions, your supervisor is your key ally in navigating Monterey County government. It is the person that you go to if you have any challenges with any of the agencies or departments that fall under the Monterey County government umbrella. If you live in an incorporated portion of District 5, which would be the cities of Monterey, Pacific Grove, and the city of Carmel, additionally, you have a mayor, a city council, and, for example, very critical department, a public works department that you also have at your disposal. But Monterey County Board of Supervisors are responsible for all of the unincorporated roadways, as well as all of the services that filter down from the state of California and from the federal government to all of Monterey County, whether or not that's the incorporated jurisdictions or the unincorporated jurisdictions. So that includes environmental health, that includes the Department of Social Services, that includes Natividad Hospital. So the supervisor is a critical player in understanding what her district is experiencing, what her district's needs are, and then advocating for her district and as a whole. I think it's really important to add, though, that we have districts for electoral purposes, but a supervisor is also a member of the County Board of Supervisors that is responsible for the entire Monterey County. I like to think of a supervisor as being part of a team that ensures not just her district, but the entire county's needs are getting met. This is where, when we're talking about big issues like our water supply, tackling our housing crisis, dealing with wildfire preparedness, dealing with protecting ourselves when we have atmospheric rivers and consequential flooding. These are county-wide problems that a supervisor needs to be able to work with the team of 5, to ensure that as a county, we're in the best position possible as we move forward into the future. Another key component of a supervisor that I'm not certain we've seen the type of leadership in the past that is as doing as much as is possible is she is responsible for holding relationships, for maintaining relationships with our federal government and our state government to ensure as many services and funding is filtering down from those entities into Monterey County to ensure that we are in the best position possible to move forward into the future. So she's a leader, she's a team player, she's a fundraiser, and she is your key liaison in District 5 to ensure that when you have challenges, those challenges are being met and addressed to the fullest extent possible. Thank you.
Thinking just about District 5, what do you consider the top 3 most pressing issues specific to this district? Why should these issues be prioritized over others?
Thank you, Josie. I believe the top 3 issues would be our housing supply, our water supply, and preparing ourselves for impending climate disasters, for lack of a better word. In terms of housing, I have had the experience of working with Gathering for Women, where I sat on the board and it also served as the interim executive director, and really saw firsthand the impacts the high cost of housing is having on our community. At Gathering for Women, we had upwards of 500 women on the Monterey Peninsula who are living in their cars, or worse than that, unsheltered and under the elements. And these are women that have been community members, part of our community for decades, but it's one medical bill or a divorce that has caused them to lose their housing and find themselves living in the situation that I just described. You're all familiar with the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District and the situation where we have approximately 10,000 students in our school district, and 2,000 of those students qualify as homeless. This is not sustainable, it's unethical, and it's something that requires our devoted attention to resolve the crisis. The way that we do that is by building units. And so that is first and foremost. In order to build units on the Monterey Peninsula, we need a sustainable water supply. When I say sustainable water supply, I'm talking about the type of water supply that would allow for the State Water Resources Control Board to determine that we can lift the cease and desist order that we have been under since 1995. Until we lift the cease and desist order, we cannot have any changes in use at any particular location. We can't take opportunities that state legislation is providing for us to move from commercial zoning to a residential zoning to make that change in use. We can't increase density until that cease and desist order is lifted. So for that reason, that is number 2 for me. And number 3 is really wildfire preparedness and disaster preparedness. For the last decade or so, we have seen a pattern that is as clear as possible, telling us that we're going to have periods of drought followed by periods of heavy rainfall, atmospheric rivers, which lead to flooding. During those periods of drought, the wildfire risk is at an all-time high. So what we need to be doing at the Board of Supervisors is ensuring that as a county, we are taking every advantage we have to harden our homes, to prepare our homes for this reality. And as a supervisor, I will take a leadership role in doing everything we can, which includes things like undergrounding our utilities, doing everything we can to ensure that what is inevitably coming, we are in the best position to be prepared for. Thank you.
Thinking about the county as a whole, the role of supervisor requires that you represent and advocate for both District 5 and the needs of all residents and businesses throughout the county. What do you think are the larger issues the districts have in common? And which one is the most important and why?
I think the largest issue that the districts have in common is the one I've been talking about, which is housing. When I've been on the campaign trail, I have heard from, I think the thing I hear about the most is concerns about interfacing with county government and the delays that we experience. And then I hear the same thing, actually, delays at hospitals, delays in providing services at the county level or throughout Monterey County. And I think that is related to the cost of living, which is not helping the ability for our county government, our public agencies, and our private sector to be able to maintain a workforce that is necessary for the full functioning of these entities. And so housing is most important. And I think that is a countywide problem because, for example, our big industry on the Monterey Peninsula in District 5 is hospitality. Hospitality relies on a workforce that is commuting long hours just to get long distances, sometimes an hour or more, to get to their places of business. That's not a sustainable model. It creates traffic, it's not good for the environment, and it's not just hospitality. If you go to our public safety sector, our firefighters, our police officers, they too are commuting long distances to work on the Monterey Peninsula. Same thing for our educational institutions, our teachers, healthcare institutions, our medical professionals. Everybody is commuting long distances to come and work in District 5. A better solution for our community, for that workforce, and for the environment is that people once again have the opportunity to live where they work. I grew up here, born and raised on the Monterey Peninsula, and know that in my lifetime, this is a major shift. When I was growing up, my teachers in the district lived in the district. Our police officers in the district lived in the district. Folks who worked in hospitality lived in the district. Folks who worked in our shopping centers, in every sector, our essential workers, our supermarkets, lived in the district. I believe this is possible. One of the things that I do in my work life right now is I do sit on the Monterey County Planning Commission. We are responsible for the county housing element. And I believe the housing element is an opportunity for us all to work together throughout District 5 to identify where we can appropriately place new units. The places where we have opportunity include in our shopping districts, where we can increase some density, where we can move some office spaces into apartments, where we can move other commercial zoned areas into residential. I think this is something that can be achieved. I'm not a fan of green belts and green fields, any opportunity where there's open space, creating sprawl. That is a lazy tactic, but I think that we can create housing at various opportunities around our commercial districts that would make a huge difference. I'm also very supportive of the opportunity for folks to create units at their own homes through ADUs. And so that's one, and that would actually, I'll wrap this section up by saying that helps the entire county, because other districts in Monterey County are carrying the housing burden for our workforce on the Monterey Peninsula.
Thank you, Kate. Okay, our fourth question. Which Board of Supervisors committees would you like to serve on and why?
Very good question. So I vacillate, sometimes I think I am not going to get into that dogfight, and I am going to go wherever they place me, because every single committee that is part of Monterey County government is critical. It's there for a reason. I know that there was a period of time a couple years ago where they did sort of expunge some of the committees that maybe had outlived their purpose. But there isn't a committee that I wouldn't be happy to sit on, whether that's Monterey Salinas Transit. I want to see our transit opportunities, all the opportunities that exist outside of car travel to increase, whether that's the AMBAG, the Association of Monterey Bay Area Governments. I mean, that is the entity, the thing that I was just talking about, the housing element that determined where in the district we can create more housing opportunities, where it should go. Those are critical conversations. I would love to sit on the budget committee. I think that the budget is a huge untapped opportunity to really have a supervisor roll up their sleeves and truly understand the streams of money that come in from the state, the streams of money that come in from the federal government, the money that is generated by the transient occupancy tax, which is then discretionary. How are we using this money, and how can we do it better to really move from this exercise that supervisors engage in every year over the course of several months to one where on the budget committee, we roll up our sleeves and think, is there opportunities that are being missed, to really think about how we're spending money and to ensure that ultimately we're budgeting our values. LAFCO is in the news right now. LAFCO is huge because when I read about the annexations and what is happening in the Salinas Valley, I understand the frustration. I understand that these RENA goals have been issued to the county, and we're being told we need to build more housing, and that the easiest solution would be to expand the boundaries of our urban zones and expand into some of our agricultural farmland to build that housing. But I also think that the mission and the mandate of LAFCO is absolutely critical for the future sustainability of Monterey County. And that's our agricultural industry. That industry is critical. It is really an amazing history that we hold in Monterey County, where we have been this leading agricultural producer for generations now. And so as a result, we've really protected the open space in our county in a way that you don't see replicated really anywhere else in California, in other valleys, in other regions. So LAFCO plays a critical role in ensuring that the growth is truly smart and is protecting the very industry that our economy relies on. There are many other committees. The Parks Committee, I mean, that holds a special place in my heart because I love our county parks, and I see a huge untapped opportunity at each and every one of them. I just, I'm going to go where, if I have the privilege of winning this race, I'm going to go where they place me, because each and every one, I think, really could benefit from leadership and my commitment to ensuring that our county is and remains one of the best places that exist on earth. Thank you.
All right, we're at our last question, Kate. Please talk about a significant women's issue that you've already addressed in Monterey County. What did you do specifically that made a sustainable difference, and what remains to be done?
Well, that's a good one. That is a really good one. The one that comes to mind right now, and it's top of mind because I was thanking an organization in San Luis Obispo this morning for an endorsement in my campaign. And it's an organization that supports women who break the glass ceiling. You know, it's called the Shatter Pack. And I think in Monterey County, since I've been back, I was born and raised here, went away to college, came back in 2005 after some time in the workforce and living in other parts of the country. And the single biggest contribution I have made started with teaching at Monterey Peninsula College in the Gender and Women's Studies department, and having the opportunity to reach so many students and provide that opportunity to engage these young people, these young minds with gender and women's issues. And that has translated into when I left Monterey Peninsula College to join Mary Adams' campaign and to help her win her election in 2016, to working in the political realm. And my contribution in this area, in women in leadership, has been ensuring that we have at minimum 30% on the Monterey County Board of Supervisors of women. And it would be wonderful to see that grow to even more than at minimum 30%. But with Mary joining Jane, that led to a major transformation on the Monterey County Board of Supervisors. And then when Jane retired, I worked a lot as a volunteer on Wendy Root Askew's campaign, because it was critical to me that we retain those two seats occupied by women. And then when Tina Nieto had made the decision to run for sheriff, I volunteered on her campaign because I wanted to see the difference a woman in leadership in that position would make. When Dawn Addis decided to run for assembly, Monterey County has never before Dawn been represented by a woman in the assembly. This was a first. This was a huge transformation for us, and the benefits in Sacramento have been felt by all of us. And so my contribution, and what still needs to continue to happen, is we need to ensure that women are in leadership. What happens when we elect good leaders? When we elect good leaders, I think there's a transformation in terms of the issues that we discuss at the board level, and not just by women and men on the Board of Supervisors. I believe women are forward thinking, looking into the future, and analyzing every decision they make in terms of what the potential future impacts may be. And that's what we need. We need forward thinking, caring, loving women with heart to help lead us into the next generation. So I think that's my biggest contribution. It's one we need to continue to work on at the levels of school boards, city councils, all of our special districts. We need to see women in leadership positions.
Thank you so much for your really thoughtful responses, Kate. We'll end with your closing statement. You'll have 1 minute.
1 minute. Okay. So in closing, I really hope to earn the support of the Democratic women of Monterey County in this campaign, and to move forward throughout the rest of this race with your endorsement and your support. Our vision, our values, the work we've been working on in the past, and what needs to happen in the future is all very much aligned. This is not easy to run for Monterey County Supervisor. This has been you know, one of the more difficult choices I've had to make as a woman, because of course, when you choose to run for office, all of the other obligations we carry don't just disappear. I still work my day job. I'm raising a family. I'm running a household. I'm caring for my parents. I have all sorts of responsibilities that I know many of us hold. And so to be able to move forward with your support and that energy is something I really hope to be able to do. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.